The U.S. debt crisis. How are my audio levels? Come through crystal clear, but the U.S. debt crisis. Women and minorities hardest hit, typically, right? But this really is a discussion about good debt versus bad debt and how one gets into good debt, how one stays out of bad debt, etc. But if you think about it, in the economic landscape where U.S. personal debt and the debt levels of individuals, they're nearing all-time highs, right? The reason this is because inflation and escalating costs across mortgages, credit cards, auto loans, personal loans, anything and everything to do with debt. The problem is that understanding the distinction between good debt and bad debt, getting this down is the only way that people can escape this morose, this bad debt space that we all find ourselves in. Well, some people find themselves in. The difference and understanding the difference and differentiating between good debt and bad debt not only aids in financial planning and stability, obviously, but it also aids in navigating potential economic downturns. So as you might understand, understanding this, getting that context in mind, good debt and bad debt, it's going to be an investment in your knowledge, your personal financial knowledge. It's going to generate long-term value. And specifically, understanding the difference between good debt or investments and bad debt, borrowing money and leveraging other people's money to get assets that typically depreciate in value, that doesn't contribute to your personal economic and financial growth. And you're going to understand that knowing the difference between these two, having the right plan in place when opportunities arise to get yourself good debt or to get yourself out of bad debt, having that knowledge in place is going to help you if and when the economy faces challenges, as many people say it will. But what is good debt, right? Isn't all debt bad? Whenever you get debt, people typically say stay out of debt, don't get credit card debt, don't do this with debt, don't do that with debt. Like, they're right in many ways, but they're really only partially correct when people say stay out of debt or avoid debt. What you really want to avoid is bad debt. And we can talk about bad debt in a second, but let's first talk about what good debt is. See, good debt really is an investment in your future. It can be characterized by its potential to increase your net worth and generate income over time. Now, this type of debt is considered an investment in you, your future you, right? The future you that you want to be jet skiing in the Maldives, enjoying the sun on a 1,000-foot yacht, driving a Lambo on a sunny day in Dubai. The future you, the one that you see as a successful version of yourself. All those things I just mentioned are debt-laden, by the way, and you probably should avoid them. But when you got that kind of dough, it's not going to be as huge a deal. But the point is that good debt typically offers returns that outweigh the costs of the debt, i.e. when you get good debt, you're typically profiting from it. Let's talk about different types of good debt, and if they are in fact good debt. Start off with a big one here. Mortgages. Now, mortgages are traditionally seen as good debt. They allow you, the individual, to purchase a home, which typically appreciates in value over time. In addition to potentially offering a return in investment through property value increases, homeownership also provides stability and opportunity for equity growth. Another one that's under attack quite a bit. See, student loans help you to foster your education, since investing in your education is one of the main ways to increase your earning potential and your career opportunities, not to mention opening up your mental horizons to understand what is possible out there in the world. Most people that talk about student loans are in fact correct. For most of the degrees that people get with these student loans, they're mostly worthless and just an anchor around your neck. If you're going to get a degree that really doesn't provide any value to you or anybody else, getting a student loan to fund that degree is not the best idea. But if you do it right, it can be considered good debt. And then there's business loans. Now, if you're taking out a business loan, you probably have a business plan. You probably talked through it with a business advisor of some kind. Both you and they, anybody who's going to give you that money, think that it's going to make you and them money in the long term, and it'll be profitable for both of you. Everybody involved in the transaction, as a matter of fact. Now, loans taken out to start or grow a business can be considered good debt for sure, as they're definitely an investment in you creating and expanding a revenue-generating enterprise. So those can be considered good debt. Then there's bad debt. Bad debt is almost entirely synonymous with immediate gratification in the financial sense. See, bad debt typically involves borrowing for expenditures that don't increase in value or generate income. This kind of debt often comes with high interest rates, compounding the financial burden over time. Now, credit card borrowing is one of the most common forms of bad debt. I'm sure you and many other people around you know about this because maybe you or someone you know is in bad credit card debt. You see, high interest rates combined with the ease of making purchases can lead to a cycle of debt that's difficult to escape. Then there's auto loans for new vehicles, another common bad debt trap. While auto loans can be necessary for getting a car that maybe you want to own instead of lease, new vehicles, they depreciate rapidly, particularly. In some cases, they lose value so fast, they become, depending on the model and the make, you could in fact be upside down on your auto loan before your loan is paid down completely. Now, this can lead to situations where the borrower owes more than the vehicle's worth. Less common, but still out there, high-interest personal loans. Personal loans used for non-essential consumption can quickly become a financial strain without adding value to the borrower's financial situation. So, for example, a personal loan to take a vacation not a great idea. Understanding this difference becomes key, particularly in economic downturns, in situations where the economy could take a turn for the worst. Now, the distinction between good debt and bad debt: if you're saddled with bad debt and the economy takes a turn for the worst, and perhaps you lose your job, or your business, the customers for your business dry up. Now all of a sudden you're in a situation where you have high interest rates and you can't pay them off, leading you to a situation where you may need to declare bankruptcy or find some other means to get yourself out of a debt situation. This is true for both good and bad debt. See, for example, if you're in this situation and you own a business and your customers dry up and you have good debt for that business, like we talked about earlier, like a business loan or something of that nature, you're still going to be in a bad situation. But presumably, the business that you own will gain some equity, or maybe you've moved the needle in some regard in terms of how your finances will improve because of the business that you owned. You've either learned something about the market that you're in, i.e. not to be in it, because when the economy goes down, your customers dry up, or you're in a situation where it can help to sustain you through this bad downturn. But with bad debt, in all situations, mostly you end up in a worse scenario when the economy goes down. So you lose your job and you have a $30,000 car note to pay off. Now you're in a situation where you either can't pay the car note and it has to be repossessed. You have to declare bankruptcy to also have the car repossessed to clear the debt from off your books. But at the same time, your credit rating will be destroyed for 7 years or so. Not a great situation for you financially. So with credit card debt, you may struggle to make even minimum payments. And we talked about the debt spiral earlier, and it's definitely true in this situation. Same thing with personal and auto loans. Anytime that you have bad debt and you just hold depreciating assets with that bad debt, if you're in a situation where your money just becomes less and less, it's dried up, your income is smaller and smaller, well, now we talked about it, you're just not in a great situation. But in situations where you have good debt, mortgages, for example. Now, like I mentioned before, in any situation where the economy takes a downturn and your income is reduced, you're going to be in a situation where you're going to be squeezed for cash. But with mortgages, at least you have something where maybe you have some equity. And perhaps, depending on this financial situation, hopefully the next economic downturn is not a real estate downturn, because if it's not, more than likely, your real estate will have gone up in value, giving you a little bit of financial room to help to weather the storm. We talked about student loans before as well. Student loans for degrees that appreciate in value, or student loans for degrees that have good market value. Now, yes, in economic downturns, the job market tends to dry up a little bit. If you have a degree that has good value associated to it, that's still going to be true no matter what the economic situation is. And eventually you're going to find a place, particularly if you've been working in that space for a number of years, where your value to new companies and new situations that pop up as the economy turns back around becomes greater and greater. You'll be in a space where you can find a new job, maybe even a job at a higher paying rate, depending on the type of economic downturn that we're in, that is. But it is my opinion that having an education and having a degree that is financially sound and financially viable, economically viable, that is the gift that keeps on giving. And if you have a resume that backs up the work that you've done over the years, you're going to be in a good situation, even if you paid for that education with student loans. Now, with this in mind, you need to know that you got to prioritize good debt. If you have the opportunity, make sure, if you're going to get into debt, to get good debt. I talked about mortgages a little bit earlier. Me personally, I'm not a huge fan of them. I'm not gonna take a stand in this video to tell you whether or not a mortgage is or is not good debt. But because you can use a mortgage to buy an appreciating asset, for the sake of this video, that's something that you should consider. Now, if you're in a situation where you already have bad debt, there are a number of ways to get out of it. You can take any one of the winter methods for debt reduction. What are the winter methods for debt reduction? Well, for some reason or the other, the two main debt reduction philosophies, well, they involve like winter artifacts of some kind. The snowball method and the avalanche method. Snowball method is where you take your debt outlay, that's the smallest interest rate, and pay extra on it until you pay that one off. Then you take the amount that you were paying on that particular account and you apply it to the next large interest rate account. And you keep doing that again and again and again until you tackle all of your debt. That you keep wanting to pay the minimum on each of the other debt accounts, but you're applying extra payments to the smallest, and as you're paying those off, they accumulate again and again as you're going through each account. That is the snowball method for debt reduction. Then there is the avalanche method for debt reduction. It's where you take your debt account with the biggest interest rate and you apply extra payments to it. You then continue to apply extra payments as you pay one account off. You apply the amount that you were paying to your biggest account to the next biggest account, and on and on and on until you pay off all of your debt accounts. There's controversy among which one of those is the best. I personally split the difference. Start off with the snowball method and then continue to the avalanche method when you get the discipline to do and to pay off your debts in the first place, which in my personal opinion is the thing that people have the hardest time overcoming when paying off their debt. Now, I know I have videos on the topic of the avalanche versus the snowball method. They're kind of old and maybe deserve an update. So make sure that you're subscribed to this channel so that when I do a refresh on them, you'll be the first to see them. And remember, a goal without a plan is a wish. A goal with a plan and no action is a wish list. I'm Derek West. You're watching Finance Squared. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.